Hello, welcome to Pyramid Knits. This is a little YouTube-y podcast about knitting and natural dyeing and other crafty goodnesses. My name is Liz. I am a knitter and a natural dyer. I'm coming to you from my home outside of Taos, New Mexico in the southwestern United States. You can find me on Instagram as Pyramid Dyeworks, and you can find me on Etsy as Pyramid Dyeworks, where I sell some naturally dyed yarns and hopefully some other goodies coming online soon. It has been a minute since I have been here. I think there were quite a few new people after last time, and then I disappeared for 3 months. Whoops. Whoopsie. Yeah, life stuff. Lots of life stuff. And the last time I recorded was it was the last week of August. Oh, I'm terrible. Oh dear. Okay, well, it's knitting season, so I need to get back here and talk about knitting. It was the last week of September. I had planned to podcast, I think the next day, and my dad and I went out for a hike up in the mountains, and we went about 4.5 miles or so. And we were done. We were officially off the trail, walking back to our cars, and he slipped on some rocks and fell and broke his leg in 3 places. Oh boy, yeah. I don't do the best with medical things when things are not attached the way they're supposed to be. Oh God. Oh, it was really gross. Yeah, so as he was sitting there on the ground, as I was rushing to my car with all 3 of our dogs in tow, and rushing up to the nearest town with cell service and an urgent care clinic to get somebody to come and tend to my elderly father who had clearly just broken his leg. Ambulance had to come. It was a whole thing. And I definitely was conscious the whole time that this was happening that my life just changed. My life did just change for the near future. And indeed it did. I have been very busy with helping take care of my dad and do stuff for him and drive him to appointments and drive his dog to appointments and cook dinners and help with household stuff, all those things. He is on the mend. He had surgery. He's got metal in his leg now. And so that is a reason that I did not podcast in September. Also around this time, this happened. What? Oh my goodness. This is Gertie. Little Gertrude. She is the sweetest little thing. And she came from the local pizza place. I was meeting a friend for dinner and there were these 2 little kittens out running around on the patio. And the staff said that they hadn't seen the mom around in a week. And then all of a sudden these kittens popped up and they were obviously way too tiny to be away from their mom. She was probably about 3 to 4 weeks old. And of course, when the waitress walked up with a kitten in her arms, I just said, give me the kitten. Just give me the kitten. And I had a little wool cardigan in my purse. I don't know if that's showing up. She's attacking me. A little wool cardigan in my purse, and I opened up my purse and set her in there, and she just went face first into the cardigan and did not move all night. So I gained another kitten, but since she was so tiny, that also meant that I was dropper feeding her every 2 to 3 hours for the first few weeks. Yeah, or at least the first 2 weeks, really. So that was a little bit of a time sink as well. Those 2 things coinciding together were quite the time sink. And oh gosh, there's so many life updates. I'm sorry, I'm going to try and start truncating this. Not long after all of those things happened, I lost my oldest cat, Tiny Tim. I'm sure he's appeared on the podcast before. I'll put get some pictures of him because I love him. He's such a sweet boy. He was 18. It was finally his time, you know. And I swear, like, once this little kitten got here, it was like, he was like, she's okay now. I can move on. That's kind of what I felt like. Anyway, very, very grateful for the little kitten. Very sad to not have my grumpy old man screaming at me for food constantly. But so it goes, such is life. And then I did actually record a podcast at the end of October. I got back on track. And I had an issue with one of the video files that got corrupted when my phone ran out of batteries. And it was just a troubleshooting nightmare. And all of a sudden I looked around and said, I already knit like a bunch more stuff and it's the end of November. Just record a new one. So here we are. I'm back. It's the end of November. It was just Thanksgiving here in the US 2 days ago. This is Saturday after Thanksgiving. I had a nice meal with some friends, lots of good food, still lots of good food in my fridge. So yesterday I was just exhausted. My friend who I went to it with was also just exhausted. So I said, I think that is the sign of a successful Thanksgiving, that you're like still in a food coma the next day. All right. So now that we've gotten all of that stuff out of the way, let's talk about what I've been knitting on. So, number one, I finished my ghost horses. Check it out. Isn't it so pretty? I love it. Like, it's a little bit wild of a pattern, right? I mean, it's got horses on it. So it was almost more of a process knit than a product knit for me. Because I'm not usually this bold, but I really love it. It's really fun. I love the way it ended up shaped. You're going to see that I have sweatpants on. Oh yeah. We're zooming it up over here. We've learned how to do that in this last year and a half. Let's see. I have notes. I can tell you what I thought about it. Yeah, so the yarns that I used are both Queensland yarns. The lighter color is Queensland United, which is a cotton wool blend. It's almost 50-50. And the color is Queensland Perth, which is 100% wool, but it is superwash. I don't recall if it's merino or not, if they specify. Yeah. So the Perth is a really cool yarn because it does kind of the same thing as Spin Cycle does. It does that same kind of effect where the two plies are different colors, so it gives kind of a hand spun effect. But it's way affordable, like way affordable, y'all. Yeah, so if you're looking for a way to get that Spin Cycle look for a little bit more on the budget, check out I just said it, Queensland Perth. Yes. They have a lot of really cool colors. They all do these cool like gradient fades. Yeah, and I really liked working with it. I have knit, and the colorways, excuse me, the colorways are Dove for the lighter color and Great Sandy for the orangey color. I had knit another project with the United yarn, and I really did not like it, like one bit. I hated the yarn. I knit a little kid's cardigan for my cousin's baby a few years ago. Well, not baby, she was a toddler by that time. Anywho, point being, I really hated the yarn. It felt stiff, it felt splitty, I didn't enjoy it. It was just annoying to knit with. It felt like knitting with cotton, and cotton doesn't have the same stretch and spring to it that wool does. And I just hated it. So against my better judgment, I decided to use that as one of the yarns in this sweater. Mostly because I was working at my local yarn shop at the time and we carried this yarn. So in addition to it being affordable, I also got a discount. So I was like, you know what, I can suffer through it. And it made sense, and it made it an affordable sweater. So this one, I loved it. It was wonderful to knit with. It felt like butter to knit with. It felt a lot more like wool. And I'm wondering, because this is a neutral color, it's probably undyed. And the color that I knit the little kid sweater in was a purple. It's like a lilac purple. And I'm wondering if the dye process, I don't know, just like made the cotton stiffer or something. I don't know. I've heard other people talk about that, how like your gauge can be different in different colorways within the same yarn line. I've never personally experienced that, but I'm wondering if this is that kind of situation right now. Have you ever experienced that? Is that really a thing, or is that just like a myth? Other things about this sweater, the only modification I did, I actually added in some decreases under the sleeves. I didn't realize that they were actually written to be like balloon sleeves. And I was a little bit iffy so this is another thing. As I was knitting, my color work tension got so much better, which means it got so much looser. So it really felt like as I was starting to finally get my color work tension down, which has always been an issue for me. And I did talk about this in an episode at some point, but I saw some video that Inga from Knitting Traditions did about how she tensions her color work. And, you know, it was just like a few minute video where she just showed herself doing some color work and just said, this is what I do. But she said like the thing that finally made sense to me. And it was how whenever she's knitting with her left hand, which I generally knit with my right hand, whenever she's knitting with her left hand, to tension it, she brings her finger forward, and to loosen it, she brings her finger backward. And I was just like, mind blown. So I saw that video when I was right about here. So after this point, suddenly it like starts getting a lot better and a lot looser. So suddenly I started to get worried that this was just going to end up being too big, that I had picked the wrong size, because I picked based my gauge off of my tighter tension. But in the end, I think it's fine. It's nice and it's loose, and it's comfy. But point being, I was thinking it was going to be too big already. And then I was knitting these sleeves and I was like, oh my God, these things are ginormous. I was like, I have to like put in some decreases. And then I was getting towards the end and I was like, these are still so ginormous. I think I'm just going to have to put in like a really big decrease row at the end just to like cinch it in. And then I actually read the pattern and I was like, oh, that's what you actually do with the pattern. It's supposed to be like that. So yeah. Anyway, I'm still glad I added in the extra decreases, because I think if it had been that big all the way to the end, that might have been just a little bit too much. Yeah, so I'm happy with that slight modification. There's still plenty of poof on the sleeves, but it makes it just a little bit less dramatic, which fits my style and my demeanor just a little bit more. So this is my Ghost Horses. I love it. Yeah, since it's a superwash and a cotton wool blend, even though it's color work, so the fabric is essentially double, right? Okay, floats. Show me your floats. It still feels really light. It's perfect for fall. It's just absolutely perfect for fall. I'm loving it. I've been wearing it a lot. Okay, notes. Where are my notes? Yes, I have other FOs. I also finally finished my spring intentions. I started this in the spring. It was a knit along with Katt from Heather and Hops. She designed the shawl and did a whole like knit along series with it, with like virtual knit nights and little weekly practices and recipes and like yoga practices and meditation practice. It was great. Super fun. I really enjoyed it. Like, it actually made me engage in a knit along, which I always have trouble with. Case in point, I'm just now finishing it, so I still had trouble with this. Anywho, it's done. This is all knit out of hand spun. This is all my first hand spuns. Hand spins. Yeah, the first ones that were usable. So I've got 3 different breeds. The gray is Massam. The white is Merino. And the brown is BFL, Blue-Faced Leicester. So that was really fun to get to spin with 3 different specific breeds. And I love this thing in all of the natural colors. And I am a natural dyer. So I don't know, take that with a grain of salt or something. But I just love this with just the natural colors. It's so, yeah. One of the things that slowed me down with this is that I ran out of yarn and I had to spin more. So also that's why here at the start, I'm pretty good about switching out colors, like, you know, one of each, doing good. And then I ran out of the other ones. And so then the end is like just white. And I also, it was supposed to be much longer even, I think. But I was like, you know what, this is big enough. So at the end, I just kind of went rogue and then mowed off. But it's great. This thing has been living on the back of my couch. And I love it. It's like the perfect length to be on the back of my couch. And it's so cozy to just grab and wrap up in. And I have taken this out on my porch a few times to snuggle up in and look at the mountain. And it's great. It's the perfect, let me just nip outside when it's chilly wrap. Yes. So I'm very, very happy with this. Thank you, Katt, for writing such a fun pattern. That is so surprisingly functional in my life. Yeah, this is one of those things, you know, it was more of a process knit than a product knit. I wanted to do the knit along. I liked the idea behind it. But so it turns out it's actually like super practical and I'm using it all the time. There you go. All right. The other finished object I don't actually have. It's already been gifted away, so I'll just have to insert the one picture that I took of it. I'm so bad. This is the Varpoo. It is a pattern by, I forget, I'll put it down here. I also did not write it down in my notes, like what the heck. Oh, also this is a Caitlin Hunter pattern. I don't think I said that earlier, but you probably already knew that. Anywho, so yes, I knit this for a friend. It is a blend of my own yarn in my own sock yarn, which was dyed with avocado. The colorway is Thunderhead. And I held that double with Hazel Knits Aero-Mo in the colorway Darkness. And I love how it turned out. I have said it before and I will say it again, I am a sucker for tonality. And that's why I love natural dyes so much, because everything is so just subtly tonal. You never have just flat color. You know, there's always some depth to it. Anywho, love the color. Did not love knitting it. It took me way too long to knit a sweater on size 15 needles, US 15 needles, which is a lot of millimeters. yeah, I'm just not a fan of knitting on bigger needles. I have another project right now going on bigger needles, and I am not loving that either. It just requires so much more hand movement than if you're knitting on a smaller gauge. You can really just move your fingers, you know. But this, I feel like I'm moving my arms, and it's just like, it takes longer. I feel like I can knit smaller faster. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I wasn't a super fan of making it, but the recipient loved it. So that's all that matters, right? Okay, that's all of my FOs. So we can move on to whips. All right, it is whip time. So I think the last time I showed this to you, it was all in pieces. Now it's like almost a whole cardigan. Check it out. Oh, there's a sleeve on here, everything. So this is the minimalist cable cardigan. Again, I did not write down the designer's name, so it's down there. And I am knitting this in, oh, I forgot already. Universal Yarns DK Tweed. It is a superwash yarn that does not feel like a superwash yarn when you're knitting it. I really like it. I'm a big fan. Also super affordable. We carried that in the yarn shop I worked in as well, so, you know, hints. So this is a gift knit as well. I have talked about this before, that it is for a friend of mine who lives in Texas. So the superwash I think will be good. Cardigan will be good. Yeah. Loving it so far. Like, really loving it so far. So this pattern is so super detailed. Like, so super detailed. And everything is just lining up perfectly. There's so many little notes in the pattern about how to get these things to match up. So this is the seam. It's all seamed too. It was the fronts knit separately, the back knit separately, and then you pick up the sleeves and knit down. So this is this join between the front and the back piece and the underarm. It's just like, it's just perfection. Look at that. Oh my God. And like, I am not tooting my horn about my own knitting. Like, the pattern told me how to do that and make it look so neat. It is a super, super detailed pattern. I would say almost to its detriment, because there have been a few times where I've had to read something like 5 times. I'm just like, what are they talking about? Because they're explaining everything in so much detail and like giving you options and kind of explaining why you should use this needle size and then switch to this. It's a super, super detailed pattern. So if you want a pattern that like holds your hand through the whole thing, I totally recommend this. However, it is a little bit confusing because they almost explain things too much. I mean, maybe that's just because I'm old and set in my ways now. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I've never done that before. I'm not going to do that. I don't know. So modifications. I am knitting this for a friend, and she is pear-shaped and shorter than me and not here. So I, have gotten some measurements and I'm taking some guesses. So I've modified it a bit to be more A-lined. I started with a larger size and then decreased down to under the underarms. So it's going to have more of an A-line shape, which I think should be really nice and flowy, and she should still be able to like button it up if she wants to. Yeah, so definitely like I made the sleeve a lot shorter than the pattern actually called for the size that I was knitting. Because I'm like, she's shorter than I am, and like this sleeve is too long. So I did have to rip back the sleeve several inches actually, and go back to start the ribbing. And it has this really nice long ribbing that you're meant to, roll back when you wear it. So it's nice and super cozy, super, super cozy. And the other thing I'm going to do with this is put in some afterthought pockets. Now, I still haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I think what I'm going to do is cut in just across here and take a few stitches from either side of the cable panel, and just do an afterthought situation. So I think on the front, I will bind off those live stitches then after I've cut that part out. So I'll have live stitches on the bottom and on the top once I cut out the strand that's in the middle, right? So those bottom live stitches, I am then going to bind off with an I-cord, just a little 3-stitch I-cord just to make a nice tidy edge. And the back stitches, I think I might actually knit down for a couple of rows. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of experience putting pockets in my knitting. I think I've only done it once. And that was kind of the technique that was used. That like you actually knit down a little bit and then you attached a fabric pocket. I don't want to do a knit pocket. I think that'll just be too heavy and it'll just like drag things down. So I want to do a little fabric pocket because she's got 2 little kids. You know, she's going to be picking up random stuff and she wants some place to put them. You know, Legos and things, I assume. Whatever small children play with. I'm not so well versed in that. Anywho, yes, afterthought pocket. Yeah, so I think I might knit down a couple of rows just to kind of hide any potential visibility of that pocket, like from the front. And then I'm just gonna do a square pocket sewn, I think with French seams, because I'm gonna be fancy, because this is from my friend, who I have known since the 3rd grade. So she gets fancy French seam pockets and a hand knit cardigan. I mean, like, come on. She did teach me how to knit, so. Yeah, so that's the plan. And I want this to be done before Christmas and like shipped to her. So there's still a missing sleeve and there are still missing afterthought pockets, but the button band is already done. I'm gonna have to sew on buttons. I forgot about that part. I probably have to go buy buttons. Also did not think about that part. Okay, well, there's another errand. Yeah, this is a very, very long delayed gift knit. I'm just noticing a stitch that's like stretched out. Yeah, I think this should have been delivered to her in like early summer 2020. But we all know how that went, right? So I'm aiming for this Christmas. Christmas 2021 instead of May 2020. Oopsie. Oopsie. Pillowcase. Okay, this is a fun one. But this is the one that's on bigger needles that I'm actually not really enjoying. The actual process of knitting. I'm loving the product though. This is definitely a product knit. So this is also a hand spun project. And I am knitting a little striped pillowcase for my couch. Yay! I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I'm just doing it garter stitch and it does those perfect little stripes. Let me grab, one of my other pillows off the couch. So you can see, like, it's gonna match so well. Yeah, so this is gonna go on a cushion on my couch. And it's gonna be like the coveted pillow for all of the animals, I think. They're all gonna want to sit on this pillow. Yeah, I just cast on an arbitrary number of stitches, which is probably a little bit too much, but my plan is to just knit a really long rectangle, and then I'm just going to fold it over on itself and do like an envelope pillow, and I'm gonna back stitch the seams. So I'm if I need to take off a few stitches off the edge, like when I'm seaming it together, does that make sense? It'll be super easy to just like pinch off whatever isn't necessary and just seam it in. And no one will be the wiser. And after I do a backstitch seam, I think I could probably even just cut it if it's like too bulky or something. It shouldn't fray or unravel really. Yeah, this yarn is quite sticky. It sticks to itself a lot, which is actually kind of annoying because it gets tangled on itself a lot. So yes, this is hand spun. I'm doing a long draw woolen spun. It's a woolen prep, woolen spun, long draw hand spin, and then I chain plied it. So it's a 3-ply. So because it's a woolen prep and woolen spun, it is quite fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that at all. Quite fuzzy, quite sticky, but also really beautiful and kind of nubby. And there's all these cool little flecks of different colors that are coming out in this. And this fleece is Peace Fleece from Harrisville Designs. It's 85% Rambouillet, which is grown on the Navajo Nation, which is actually quite close to where I live. A couple 100 miles, you know, close by Western US standards. 85% Rambouillet and 50% mohair. And yeah, I love how the stripes are turning out and how the colors are playing with each other, because that lighter color has a lot of those kind of little turquoise pops in it. And yeah, oh, it's so pretty. So yeah, not really enjoying knitting it because I am using bigger needles, size 10, which is a 6mm. And yeah, especially with it being a sticky yarn on a bigger needle, I'm like moving my hand every time. I'm throwing instead of flicking, which is the way that I knit. So I just wanted to show the improvement in my spinning. So this is one of the first ones that I spun. This is really my first like 3-ply chain ply yarn that is usable. So this was my first go round, and this is my most recent go round. I mean, there's still like weird little nubbins and stuff, but you can really see the difference in the consistency, right? Like the most recent one is much, much more even, as opposed to one of my earlier spins that's really kind of all over the place. So it's great to be able to see my improvement, and to be able to use this for something that's going to be so functional. I love functional things. Yay. My next whip is some socks. And I had started these last time I showed you guys, which, yes, it's one sock. My last time was 2 months ago. It's still not done. Kind of what I expected, though, frankly. So here we are so far. These are my Oktoberfest Socken. Again, did not write down the designer's name. The yarn I am using is from Hazel Knits. It's their Artisan sock in the colorway Taos, which is indeed the town in which I live. So it's supposed to be this nice sort of like Adobe Southwest color, which is really just a nice sort of deep tonal pink, which I quite enjoy. Normally I am a toe-up vanilla sock knitter, so this is like way out of my comfort zone doing a pattern sock. But hey, here we go. That's why it's taking so long. So, number one, I did the heel while I was in a virtual knit night. Most of the heel while I was in a virtual knit night. This is supposed to be an Eye of Partridge heel. That is not an Eye of Partridge heel. I don't know what I did. But I definitely, I had like a few rows left on the heel flap whenever I left the knit night, and then I set it down for a few weeks, honestly, and finally picked it back up again. I was like, okay, I got to get this heel turned so I can keep moving on this thing. And I read the instructions and I was like, that is not what I did, like, at all. So I was definitely distracted in the virtual knit night. So yeah, whatever. I don't care. Got the heel turned, starting to go down the foot now. And at some point I misplaced my pattern. I am a paper pattern person. I like to have the physical pattern in with my project. I had it in my little sock bag. And then one day it wasn't there. The pattern with the cable pattern wasn't there. And I still haven't found it. I still don't know where it is. It must have gotten left somewhere or fallen out of my bag and blew away or something. I don't know. So I naively thought, oh, that's fine. I pretty much know. I was out and I wanted to knit on it and I didn't have the cable pattern. I was like, that's fine. I can just like keep going and I can tell what I'm supposed to do. No, I cannot. I definitely cannot. So somehow, somewhere I have gotten off in the cable pattern, but I didn't have my paper pattern. And then my printer ran out of ink and I had to order ink. At any point, did I look it up on my phone or my computer and just like sit down and fix it? No. Once I put the ink into the printer, it did arrive the other day. I just haven't installed it yet. I can reprint my cable pattern and keep going with this. But yeah, that was kind of frustrating to get off on the pattern because I had some momentum going again, you know, and now it's stalled out again. So yeah, this is a challenge knit for me, a patterned sock. It's definitely a challenge. I will persevere. No deadlines, but I will persevere. Eventually. So next up is a fun one. It's not knitting, but it's crochet. It is my granny stripe blanket. Yes. Yes, people. Look at it in all its glory. Yeah, so I cast this on in January of 2020. I taught myself how to crochet when I was working at the yarn shop one day and it was slow. And I was like, I have all these scraps. I got to do something with it. I was like, I got to do a granny stripe blanket. I think like around that time, it's like all the podcasters were doing granny stripe blankets. And I was like, I got to do it. So I taught myself how to crochet. I came home and cast on this blanket in January of 2020. It is now the end of November 2021. We are quickly approaching the 2-year mark on this project. Yeah, there's still a long way to go. It's a queen size blanket. Honestly, it's probably a king size blanket because it hangs over the edge of my queen bed quite a bit. So yeah, it's huge. It's really big. Oh, I knocked down my water bottle. And this is just all scrappy things, I'm doing a vague rainbow sequence. Whenever I need to pick my next color, I just kind of say, okay, what was last? So I've got here red, orange, yellow, green, and then I skipped blue and went to purple, and then we went to a neutral, come back into the reds, the orange, skipped yellow because there was some yellow in this orange, green, blue, and that's like I think that's a gray actually. Then it kind of a blue gray. Yeah, so I'm skipping some colors here and there and just, kind of working my way through the rainbow and through saturation levels. And they're just little bits and pieces from like every project I have ever knit. Oh my God. It's wild. Wild, wild. The memories. Yeah. Anyway, loving it. Loving it. I have my leftover Ghost Horses yarn in here now. You see that? Second from the top stripe matches my sweater. Yeah, so this is back out now that the weather is getting cooler. I've put a few stripes on it recently. And yeah, especially in the mornings whenever it's a little chilly, I love to knit or craft with my coffee in the morning and watch a podcast or watch the news or something and just kind of ease into my day. And yeah, some mindless crochet is sometimes just what you need. Yeah, so it continues. The granny stripe, she grows. Ah, yes. The death of Myrtle. I showed this one to you guys last time. It's a sweater that I started also, God, probably, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. Boy. The last several years have been a little, I give myself a pass. Anyway, point being, it had gotten left in a basket in the corner for years. Not in a bag, just out. I know. And it got eaten by moths. I still had one sleeve to go. The body was done, one sleeve was done. I had one sleeve to go on the collar. And it is a lace weight, lace pattern from Kate Davies. I'll put in a picture. Beautiful, beautiful sweater. I really, really wanted it. Again, product, not processed, not enjoyable. Very tiny, very fiddly. And then eaten by moths. So I had, and the thing is, like, I had already repaired holes in that from Katt, from Katt holes. I had already repaired those like a year ago, and then all of these moth holes. So I was really on the fence about like what to do about it. Do I power through and like finish the project? There's only one sleeve in the neckline left, and just like sew up all these little holes. Do I try and salvage the yarn? Do I abandon it? What do I do? And it was a resounding 100% of you told me, do not finish that sweater. It's dead to you. Don't finish it. Turn it into something else, but just cut your losses. 100% of you. So thank you very much. I do not have the guilt now of abandoning my all alpaca lace weight, all over lace pattern sweater. I may salvage some of the yarn and do like a super lightweight hat or like some mitten liners or something, because that alpaca is so nice and lightweight and warm. So that might be a thing I do. I don't know. We'll see. But whatever. The myrtle is dead. The myrtle is dead. I shall never speak of it again. Goodbye, myrtle. Rest in peace. So, speaking of fleece, I was gifted several fleeces, frankly. Well, one whole fleece and then some other bits and bobs of fleece. But it was one CVM fleece. It was like 4.5 pounds, and that is California variable mutant. It was very dirty. Straight from the sheep, straight from the farm. I will put in a picture here of what it looked like coming out of the bag. What it looked like in the pot cleaning it. Nasty. But like, my God, what a satisfying process. Scouring raw fleece. Oh, it gets so clean and pretty. I did all of my fleece. I ran it through the scouring process 3 times. I think I might have to do 4 though. I don't know. Anyway, okay. So I've dyed some of it up so far. This is the only color I've done so far because I want to experiment with the way that I process the fleece before or after dyeing, and see how that affects the finished spun yarn. So I have got all of this lovely CVM straight from the sheep, cleaned up. Yeah, you can still see there's some little bits of vegetable matter in there to run across. But all of these lovely, lovely locks of marigold dyed CVM. And all of this bag, something. All of this bag was run through the drum carder and processed before I mordanted or dyed anything. And then this bag has not been through the drum carder yet. So this got mordanted and dyed in its true lock form. So you can see with this one, I don't know, there might be getting a glare. Yeah, all of these locks took up the dye differently than the rest of the fiber. So I'm really curious if that's actually going to affect the finished yarn or not. So yeah, the pre-processed versus, or the pre-carded versus the uncarded. Like, the base color is really pretty much the same. So I'm really curious if keeping these locks like this actually gets the dye on there better, or after I run it through the drum carder, it's all gonna look the same. So we'll see. That's part of my experiment. The other part of my experiment, I compared to, there it is, commercially prepared wool. So this is a little bit of, from Knit Picks Wool of the Andes fleece compared to my prepared fleece. And there's a tiny bit of a difference in the color. The wool of the Andes is a little bit more saturated, and it's hard to know if that is because of the fiber type. This is Peruvian Highland wool. This is CVM. Maybe it just takes the dye differently. I don't know. Maybe once it's all spun, it's all gonna look exactly the same. Maybe if I scour this one more time and get a little bit more of the greases and the dirts and the oils off of it, I could get closer to this color. We'll see. But all in all, it's really close. It's really quite close. So I'm pretty happy about that. While I was at it in the marigold dye bath, I went ahead and threw in some sock yarn. Yay! So I've got a few of these skeins up at my shop right now. I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you're watching this podcast and you see this and you want the gloriously gold marigold sock yarn that I am holding in my hand right now, use the coupon code podcast and get 25% off. I just want to see if you're watching. Anyway, but like seriously, is that not the best color in the world? Like marigold has got to be my favorite dye. It's just like, that's the color. That is the color. One more thing on the fiber front. So I have started collaborating with a local farm to me. It's a Versilvia farm. They're up in Questa, New Mexico. It's about a half an hour north of me. I don't know if you can hear the magpies screaming outside my door right now, but that's what they do. They just scream. Yeah, you can probably hear that. Anyway, they have alpaca and mohair goats and Icelandic sheep. So I did one run of dyed yarn for them. I'll put in whatever pictures I have of that here. I didn't do a great job of documenting. Again, you think one of these days I'm going to learn. And I have just gotten a second batch of yarn from them. So that first batch they've only done single plies of single breeds. So that first round I did was single ply Icelandic and single ply churro yarn, which was not from their farm, but also local, that they had spun. The churro was white. The alpaca was gray, a mix of black and white fibers. Turned out great. Oh my gosh, so good, so satisfied with it. They were super happy. I was super happy. Their customers were super happy. People seem to like the colors that I'm doing. So this seems like a collaboration that is going to continue. So I'm very happy about that. And I have gotten some more mohair yarn from them this time. Also in sort of this deep gray base. And dyeing on a gray base is the best. It just makes the colors so much deeper and more saturated, it feels like, because you have all of these dark, deep grays sort of like pulling the color down. My animals have been all over this. Oh my gosh. Anytime I've had the bag out, it's just, anytime I have the bag of mohair out, they're just like in it and like dragging them out. I have a bunch of them that are mordanting right now, and I was putting the ties on them yesterday, and like the kitten kept trying to steal them, and the other cat was like rolling in the bag, and yeah, they're all really into mohair, like really, really into mohair. It's like kind of cute that they have fiber preferences, but it's also really annoying that they want to eat my mohair. That's not great. So yeah, I'm going to be dyeing those up over the next few days, and hopefully throwing in some fleece and whatever random yarns I have in there, and putting that stuff up in the shop soon too. But yeah, if you're interested in any of the yarns that Versilvia is doing, it is 100% local, northern New Mexico. You know, all the wool comes from their farm. If you're in the area, they have a little farm stand that they are opening up that has a little holiday marketplace going on. I think they're only open like 2 days a week, so check them out over on Instagram to get the details on that. But they've collaborated with a bunch of local farms and makers, and they have all sorts of cool farm and craft products in their little marketplace shop. So yeah, if you're driving through northern New Mexico, stop off and see them. They also sell online. I think they're working on their website. Whatever, Instagram, find them on Instagram. I think that's everything. That's got to be everything. That's a lot of things. So thanks so much for joining me today. Whether you are new or returning, I hope you return again. It's always so nice to have visits with fiber friends, because fiber friends are the best friends, right? Fiber friends are the best friends. It's true. Yeah, let's go get at it, y'all. Have a great Saturday, or whatever day it is, morning, evening, noon, night. Happy crafting. Drop a line and say hi, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.